Nick Shirley promised you $1 billion Somali daycare fraud scandal. The problem is, when the actual investigators went into the same buildings, they found daycares doing daycare shit. Kids, staff, inspections, paperwork, the whole 9 yards. Not ghost towns that he was selling. First video I did is getting a lot of backlash online, so I thought I'd make part 2 and double up. In this video, we're going line by line of what Nick shows you on screen versus what investigators and records actually found at those exact centers. So let's get one thing straight up front. There is real fraud in Minnesota, especially in their benefit programs. Medicaid cases, food programs, past daycare overbilling. People have been indicted and prosecuted for that. But Nick's video doesn't prove that the specific Somali-run daycares he filmed are fake fronts. That's why state investigators, federal agencies, and multiple newsrooms have gone back to check the receipts.
We're outside of it.
Well, this is actually 2 daycares are registered here. One of them is Mako, which you see on this sign. The other one is Mini Child Care Center.
Hey, real quick, if you made it this far in the video, thank you very, very much. Now, if you would, please hit subscribe, hit like, and drop a comment. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
And between the two of these child care centers, they're pulling in about $3 million a year. And there are no children. Every facility that you go to, the windows will be blocked out so you can't see in. There's nobody here. You won't see a single child at any of these facilities.
What Nick shows versus what inspectors saw. So here's the basic move Nick uses over and over. Show up unannounced with a camera crew, film a few minutes of the outside, and if he doesn't see kids right then, he tells you it's obvious fraud. But now here's what happened when people with actual authority went into those same places. Minnesota's Department of Children and Families sent inspectors to 9 of the centers in his video right after it went viral. They did on-site compliance checks and found children present at 8 of the 9. The 9th had no kids only because it wasn't open for the day yet when inspectors had arrived. In the state's words, those 9 centers were operating as expected. Licensed, open, serving kids, and not abandoned shells. So same buildings, same addresses. Nick gets a spooky parking lot, and regulators get classrooms with kids in them. And here's the specific centers he misleads you about. Let's walk through a couple of the exact sites he leans on the hardest. First, the cluster of Somali-owned centers he visits around the Twin Cities. State records show that almost all of the locations mentioned in the viral video still have active licenses and have been inspected within the last 6 months. CBS Minnesota and other outlets cross-checked nearly a dozen places from his video. They found that all but 2 had active licenses and that regulators had already dropped in for unannounced inspections recently, including at least one as late as December 4th. But Nick never tells you that. He just points to a closed door and says, obvious fraud. Then there's the center called Mako Childcare. Nick presents it as suspicious, but Minnesota's own child agency says Mako has been closed since 2022. Showing a permanently closed site as proof of current fraud is not investigative journalism. It's YouTube theater. In the video, Nick and his source, David, talk like they've uncovered over $100 million in fraud tied to these Somali centers.
15 Somali healthcare companies at the same address. There's another building in St. Paul that has 22 Somali healthcare businesses at the same address.
And the government knows about this.
The government knows they're writing the checks. Yeah, the Democrats over there just writing the checks. What has happened is that the Somali community is a very closed community. They will not speak to anyone outside the community and talk about what's going on within the community.
He frames it like it's part of a giant billion-dollar scandal. Here's what the state actually says about the money attached to the daycares he filmed. The 9 centers that regulators rechecked received a combination of $17.4 million from Minnesota Child Care Assistance Program in the last fiscal year. That's real money, and it absolutely should be monitored. But they receive public funds is not the same thing as we proved fraud, okay? And Nick never gave the basic context. The agency currently has 55 open investigations into CCAP providers statewide, and 4 of the 10 centers from his video are part of those ongoing probes. Not convicted, not shut down, but under review. So the honest version is, some centers in this video are under investigation in a bigger fraud crackdown. But when inspectors showed up, they were open, licensed, and operating with kids inside. That's a very different story than we've busted a bunch of empty fake daycares, right? Next, look at actually tried to verify his claims. NPR, CBS Minnesota, local TV stations, and national outlets all describe the same pattern. A viral right-wing video makes sweeping claims, and when reporters check the specific addresses, they find functioning daycares.
Taking the allegations at face value. Take a listen.
Intrepid journalists have made shocking and credible allegations of extensive fraud in Minnesota's child care programs. We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade. Starting today, we require a justification, receipt, or photo evidence before we make a payment.
However, the so-called evidence comes from a man who has posted anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant content in the past. CNN's Whitney Wild speaks to the man behind that video and takes a look at his claims.
We're from CNN. Can we talk to you? This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley. Back at a daycare in Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video.
People are going to say it's a left or right issue, but no, fraud is fraud. And so I'm not out here trying to put a twist on things.
Shirley's viral video, released over the weekend, in which he says he's uncovering tens of millions of dollars in fraud at Minneapolis daycares run by the Somali community, was retweeted by Elon Musk and Vice President J.D. Vance. In the video, Shirley tries to open locked doors and talk to people at various daycares he claims are frauds.
Did you come during their normal operating hours when you came to visit?
I came at 11 a.m., I believe, and I also came the following day, later in the day. The point of it is not whether or not I came at the right time of their operation hours. The point is that blacked out doors, they can't give you any information. You call that number, no one answers. I wasn't trying to go inside, and there should be a way for somebody to actually be able to call that number and somebody to be able to answer. These aren't real businesses.
But surely you don't think a daycare should just be unlocked. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a
There should be a
daycare.
reception.
No, every daycare is locked.
And so, okay, you bring up a fair point. Then why can't they actually give me information how to enroll a child?
Federal law enforcement has been investigating fraud in Minnesota for several years.
Even as the Trump administration freezes $185 million in child care payments to Minnesota and sends more federal officers, federal officials have not confirmed that the specific centers in Nick's video committed fraud. So if your take is the left is covering this up, explain why. State regulators publicly said the centers were operating as expected. They publicly disclosed the dollar amounts and number of investigations. And conservative media is loudly celebrating the funding freeze Nick helped trigger. That's not a cover-up. That's a political reaction to a viral YouTube video. That's it. As far as the editing side, a detailed breakdown of Nick's video points out some classic disinformation tactics. Selective timing. In at least one case, security footage from a daycare shows parents dropping off kids the same day he was outside claiming no children anywhere.
At the daycare where Shirley showed back up, a stream of children walk inside.
You're saying that this is a fraudulent daycare. There's kids being dropped off right now.
Yes, the Commissioner of Children literally said a week ago this place was closed. Did you know They're showing face right now.
A viral video.
False. Non-operational sites. In at least 2 cases, he visits facilities that weren't actually operating as daycares anymore, but never explains that context. Suspicious, Nick. Suspicious by default. Treats it as shady that centers won't just buzz in a random masked camera crew without an appointment. Even though standard childcare security is literally you don't let random people in. He doesn't have to fake footage. He just has to show you real images in a very specific order, tell you what you're supposedly seeing, and skip any fact that points in another way. So to the people in the comments saying the left is just mad because he exposed fraud, here are the facts, not vibes. Yes, Minnesota has a history of real fraud in publicly funded programs, and law enforcement is still bringing new cases. Yes, some childcare providers, including a few from his video, are under investigation right now. But no, the state did not find a bunch of empty fake daycares when they checked his list. They found licensed centers, kids present, and operations as expected in 8 out of the 9 inspections, plus 1 that simply wasn't open yet. So if you're serious about stopping fraud, you should want solid investigations and clear evidence, not a 23-year-old drive-by with a GoPro and a storyline that he wrote before he even left his house. And at the end of the day, you don't have to trust CNN or CBS, or me. I don't trust either of them either. You can just read the state's own releases, the inspection reports, and the licensing records that say these centers are operating as expected while investigations continue. Nick's video took real anger about real fraud and bolted it into the wrong targets. If you're going to blow up people's livelihoods and freeze hundreds of millions in childcare funding over that, the bare minimum standards should be more than, I didn't see any kids in the 5 minutes that I sat in my car. If you want part 3, drop a specific claim from his video in the comments, and the next episode will be nothing but receipts. I'm Chris McIntyre. This is Almost Above Average. Hit subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.